So every year in the NHL, there's obviously a new batch of rookies that come in and either overperform, meet expectations, or underperform. And today we're going to be spotlighting one rookie from all 32 teams. Now, some of these, just for a little bit of a disclaimer, we are not including any of the rookies that have been traded midseason. So that excludes players like Fabian Zetterlund and Vitaly Kravtsov, so they're not included in this list whatsoever. And as well as that too, I tried to steer away from the rookies with the most points. In some instances, I really couldn't. However, I did try and steer away from that when I could and spotlight some other rookies that have made their debut around the NHL this season. So anyway, starting off here with the Boston Bruins, you have center Jacob Lauko. And on a dominant team like the Boston Bruins, you're really not going to see that many playing time. However, with some injuries that have come across the Bruins, Lauko has come into the lineup and has played pretty suitable. He has 3 goals, 2 assists for 5 points with 4 penalty minutes in 12 games played. So that's not really that bad whatsoever. And that's generally what a lot of these rookies may be. There's some players that we're going to spotlight that don't have points, that barely have any points or don't have any at all. And that kind of goes to show, like with rookies, I really did try and stray away for some of the big point leading scorers. However, some of them I couldn't, but the majority I did try to. So Boston, you got Jacob Lauko. For Buffalo, you got defenseman Owen Power. Now, Power isn't not like necessarily a player that people don't know. Of course, he's one of the first overall draft picks that Buffalo has. But obviously, this was his first season in the NHL, and he's been pretty solid on that blue line for the Sabres. With 4 goals, 22 assists for 26 points. He is a plus 11 and has 24 penalty minutes in 63 games played. So obviously Owen Power playing a pretty suitable job there with the Buffalo Sabres. If you guys haven't seen my game vlog, I didn't talk about Owen Power that much in there, and kind of reflecting on that game, he looked kind of invisible. However, he is a rookie. I did see him out there on the ice. It's not like I didn't see him, but I don't think he got any chances to my knowledge. But still, I definitely think he's a good part to Buffalo's future 100%. Moving on to Detroit now, you get a pretty, well, he isn't like a pleasant surprise because we kind of saw this coming, kind of not. But Jonathan Berggren has done a very good job at establishing himself in his rookie season. He's a right winger, and he has 12 goals, 11 assists for 23 points, and is a -6 overall with 16 penalty minutes in 51 games played. Obviously, Detroit is away from that playoff spot, so they're not going to make the playoffs now. However, seeing guys like Berggren come into the lineup, play a full suitable season, and get almost 25 points is not too bad whatsoever. And it goes to show the youth that Detroit is building with this team right now, and it's definitely pointing towards a brighter future. Moving on now to the Florida Panthers. If I'm correct, the Panthers really did not have a lot of options. They really did not. So I went with Grigory Denisenko here. Denisenko has no goals, 3 assists for 3 points, and is a -5 with 4 penalty minutes in 18 games played. And that's how I was going to go with some of these rookies. And some of these teams overall haven't had that many rookies come up into the system, and that's whether because, they're in a rebuild, they don't have many prospects, or they just don't have prospects that are good enough to be suitable in the NHL, which is definitely a big role with some of these teams. But yeah, Grigory Denisenko, I'm going to relate to NHL 23 here. I've had him in some of my franchise modes. He's a pretty solid player in franchise, but not sure if he's panned out that way in the NHL, but he hasn't gotten a full shot really yet to prove himself. So we'll see there if he does, but as of right now, haven't seen much. With Montreal, there was actually a few options. You could have went with Arbor Jakai, who I wouldn't mind necessarily spotlighting, but he's also hurt, so I try to stray away from that as well. So I went with Raphael Harvey-Pinard, who, before making this video, I didn't know who he was. But he's played pretty solid with Montreal in his little stint here. He has 8 goals, 4 assists for 12 points, a +6 overall, and 6 penalty minutes in 23 games played. So you look at a team like the Canadiens. Obviously, they have a lot of injuries. There's a lot of players that are hurt on that team. So that, I believe, has opened a lot of roster spots for somebody like Harvey-Pinard to come in there and take a spot. And he's done a pretty suitable job so far. and maybe Montreal will consider keeping him. Who knows? Moving on to the Ottawa Senators, there weren't many like huge options with Ottawa. There was like Ridley, Gregg. I thought about talking about Jake Sanderson. However, I think last week I made a Senator-related video, so I kind of wanted to, stray away from that a little bit. But I do want to talk about Shane Pinto, because something that has definitely come up is that the Ottawa Senators suddenly are super deep down the middle. Now, with Josh Norris's injury, obviously that's going to hurt that center core, but you got guys like Claude Giroux, you got Shane Pinto there as well. So you have a pretty deep center core when it's fully healthy. However, Pinto with the Norris injury has been getting top 6 minutes, and he's been playing pretty suitable so far with 17 goals, 11 assists for 28 points. He's a minus 18 though. I don't know how people feel about the plus minus, but I included it in here. And he has 14 penalty minutes through 66 games played. Obviously, there, Pinto obviously was a hyped up player last season and the season before as well. He's dealt with injury problems. Playing a full season, he's done a solid job with the Ottawa Senators. When this team is fully good, I'm intrigued to see how Pinto will do. Moving on now to Tampa Bay. And honestly, with Tampa Bay, I would expect to have like some kind of like Florida-level rookie. However, defenseman Nick Perbix has looked really good. And it goes to show how Tampa still has this incredible scouting core just literally years later. When you thought that all their good prospects have finally developed, no, they still keep pulling gems like Nick Perbix and, Anthony Cirelli there as well. And Perbix has done very good for the Lightning with 4 goals, 15 assists for 19 points. He's a plus 13 overall with 16 penalty minutes. Obviously there, Tampa was struggling to look for suitable blue liners. Victor Hedman's had a pretty down season, but Nick Perbix has done pretty okay in his place. Not the Victor Hedman level, but obviously there, he's playing well in his part. And the final player for the Atlantic Division is obviously with the Maple Leafs. You got Pontus Holmberg. Didn't have a lot of options with the Maple Leafs either. But Holmberg this season has 5 goals, 8 assists for 13 points with 18 penalty minutes, which I think is the most besides Owen Power that we've covered so far in 37 games played. So obviously there, Holmberg has been kind of hyped up by Leafs fans for a while here, and he's taken a solid step to the NHL. Moving on to the Metro Division now. You got center Jack Drury for Carolina. He's got 22 games played under his belt. He has 1 goal, 2 assists for 3 points, is a plus 5, and has 10 penalty minutes. So the thing is with Jack Drury and Carolina as a whole, this is their only rookie. This is their only rookie that I could choose, and I'm kind of glad that he was, because I've been riding the Jack Drury train for a while now. I think he can be a pretty suitable center for the Carolina Hurricanes, and this isn't the only solid rookie we're going to see come up into the lineup in the next couple of years. We got that Alexander Nalimov guy from the KHL that's looking pretty solid tall defenseman. I mean, you see, Carolina done a lot of blue line changes over the past couple of years. I think with this new prospect coming in, they may not need to worry about that too much. But overall, Jack Drury been a solid center. Hasn't really gotten the shot that he deserves, but we'll see him hopefully get it eventually. Next up now, we got Columbus, and there hasn't been many things positive with Columbus. There's been Ken Johnson. I'll give him a little shout out, but I didn't go with him here. I went with Kirill Marchenko. So Marchenko, he has 16 goals, 2 assists for 18 points. He's a minus 12 and has 10 penalty minutes in 42 games played. Obviously there, he's only had 16 goals. He has 2 assists. But he's been scoring at an all-right rate here for a second-round pick in 2018. And this kind of goes to show that he's been a pretty solid draft pick since being drafted. And next year, when this team's better, I definitely think that they can do some damage. However, obviously, Columbus' season not been very good under Gaudreau. So, yeah, obviously we knew that was going to happen. But next up now, we got the New Jersey Devils, and that's Alexander Holtz. Now, there wasn't a lot of options with the Devils either, and Holtz was even rumored to be traded with the Timo Meier deal when that happened a couple weeks ago. Holtz has 3 goals, 1 assist for 4 points, is a minus 6, and has 8 penalty minutes through 19 games played. So obviously there, Holtz, he hasn't panned out at the NHL level that Devils fans hoped he was going to be. Granted, he hasn't gotten a lot of chances to do that really, but obviously there, the Devils were definitely expecting a lot more out of him. It's not to say that he's been bad, but he hasn't really gotten a shot yet, so we'll see. Next season will be a huge year for him, so 100%. Next up now, with the Islanders, we got defenseman Robin Salo. Didn't have a lot of options here with the Islanders either, but Salo this season has 2 goals, 2 assists for 4 points with a +1 and has 4 penalty minutes through 11 games played. So the Islanders, obviously an interesting team there. They're looking at their blue line. People say that, they need blue line acquisitions. Salo's looking like a pretty solid prospect that's up and coming. And who knows, maybe next season we're talking about, just kidding, he's not on the Islanders anymore. I was about to say A2 Ratty, but I'm wrong. A2 Ratu, not A2 Ratty. I know people get mad at that, but he's no longer on the Islanders. That's a big mistake by me. I almost said his name, but then I stopped myself. So obviously there, Robin Salo been pretty solid for the New York Islanders. We'll see how he does with when he's fully established on that blue line, most likely next season. With the Rangers, didn't get a lot of options here either. Of course, I couldn't include Vitaly Kravtsov. Even if I could, that wouldn't be too exciting. So I went with Will Cooley. Will Cooley has 0 goals, 0 assists, 0 points, with a -2 and 10 penalty minutes through 4 games played with the Rangers. Obviously there, when you get 10 penalty minutes in your first 4 games in the NHL, Gallant probably looked at that and said, we don't want that. So I'm not surprised there really whatsoever. He hasn't played that much. But yeah, the Rangers rookies have not been very interesting this year. I do want to make another video on the Rangers very soon because obviously with the Patrick Kane type stuff now, they're definitely a team worth talking about. And they've scored a lot of goals as of late. So I definitely want to talk about them in the very near future, maybe even next video. Who knows? Who knows what we'll do tomorrow? Next up now, we got Philadelphia, and that's the team that I'm wearing right now. We're going to talk about Noah Cates. Cates has 10 goals, 17 assists for 27 points with a +5 and 4 penalty minutes through 67 games played this season. Noah Cates, obviously an interesting forward there for the Philadelphia Flyers. He's been a pretty solid pickup from free agency. I'll give Fletcher credit there. I've criticized Fletcher heavily in videos, but I will give Fletcher credit where it's due. Noah Cates was a pretty solid pickup, and he's done all right playing as a left wing for an injured Philadelphia Flyers team, and he'll definitely stay with us throughout this upcoming rebuild or whatever we're doing. Who knows what we're doing at this point. Next up, in Pittsburgh, we got defenseman Pierre-Olivier Joseph. Now, Joseph, I've had my doubts for a while since he was with the Arizona Coyotes, but he has established himself as a pretty solid defender with the Pittsburgh Penguins. And, it took him a while, and that's how it is for some of these players. It takes them a while to develop some of these players into some of these teams' schemes and some of these coaches' schemes, and it takes them a while to adjust into the NHL as well. So that definitely plays a big role in why it took him a while to develop. But he's been pretty solid with 4 goals, 13 assists for 17 points with a +9. He has 38 penalty minutes, though, through 60 games played with the Pittsburgh Penguins. So, yeah, Joseph, been a pretty solid defender, even though Pittsburgh, I don't know about them, to be honest with you. But we'll see what they do as time moves along, and we'll see if Joseph will be okay come playoffs. And the last player we have here in the Eastern Conference and the Metropolitan did not have a lot of options either with the Washington Capitals. So I went with Beck Malistine, who has 1 goal, 1 assist for 2 points with a +2 and has 2 penalty minutes in 5 games played this season. Of course, you're looking at a lot of teams who really don't have that many rookies, and Washington is one of them. But Beck Malistine's played a few games into the lineup, has been all right, and 2 points in 5 games for a rookie isn't really too bad. If I'm correct, he is also signed within the next couple of years. Moving on now into the Western Conference and with the Central Division, we're going to start off with the Arizona Coyotes here. Now, obviously, there's actually been a lot of players that have come up into the Coyotes lineup and have played as a rookie this season. You got Jack McBain, who we're going to talk about. You got Dylan Gunther. You got Logan Cooley. You got Yanis Jerome-Moser. You got a lot of rookies that have come up into those lineup, obviously, and of course, as a team that's rebuilding, and with a lot of young players that Armstrong has done a very good job at constructing, obviously you're going to have a lot of players come in and out of the lineup. So, Jack McBain's the first one. I remember when we acquired this guy, he was a hyped-up prospect. He hasn't necessarily been that, but he's been okay with the Coyotes, obviously. He has 11 goals, 7 assists for 15 points, is a -5, has 55 penalty minutes, though, in 68 games played. Obviously, if I make a video on Arizona eventually, which I will, But Arizona, they get a lot of fights. They get a lot of penalty minutes. Of course, that's going to affect Jack McBain. So obviously, there's been a lot of fights. McBain and the whole team generally seems to be better at home, which is kind of weird because they live in a college arena. I guess that does something for them, but they seem to be really good at home. People probably thought coming into Winnipeg, oh yeah, it's going to be so easy to beat, a team like the Coyotes, and oh yeah, it's going to be so simple. No, the Coyotes have won the majority of their home games. They've been very good at home this year. But yeah, Jack McBain been a solid rookie for the Coyotes, and I definitely am looking forward to the next couple of years with him. With Chicago, this is their first year of the rebuild. They really didn't have many rookies, to be honest with you. So I went with defenseman Isaac Phillips, who has 1 goal, 4 assists for 5 points this season, a -10, and 5 penalty minutes through 16 games played. Now, the cool thing with some of these teams is that with a guy like Isaac Phillips, with a team like the Blackhawks, you're going to see new players come up into the lineup and that you don't know. And I'm going to openly admit, I didn't know Isaac Phillips before I made this video. And that's the point of this video. I want to spotlight some rookies that people may not know. And people don't know Will Cooley. People don't know Noah Cates. People don't know Beck Malliston. And people probably don't know Isaac Phillips. So it's definitely something I wanted to do for a while. But Phillips came up into that Chicago D that's obviously terrible. Hasn't played horrible. -10 ain't too bad. 5 penalty minutes, I guess it's okay. But obviously there, we'll see if this guy plays a key role in the Blackhawks rebuild for the next couple of years. Moving on here to Colorado, they were once again another team that hasn't really played up to the level that, or has rookies up to the level that expectations. But Ben Myers has been the only rookie, I think, for Colorado, if I'm correct. He has 1 goal and 1 point for a -7, 6 penalty minutes in 33 games played. This guy's a center. I would imagine the only reason why this guy's playing up in the lineup is because Gabriel Landeskog is hurt. Gotta be entirely honest. I've heard of this guy, but I didn't expect him to play up into the lineup this season. Not at all. The next rookie, this isn't necessarily a rookie that isn't spotlightable, but I definitely wanted to talk about him. It's defenseman Nils Lindqvist, because obviously he was traded earlier in the season from the Rangers, so I wanted to give a little bit of an update and see how he is doing with the Stars. He's been all right. 6 goals, 10 assists for 16 points. He's a -6 with 26 penalty minutes in 57 games played with Lundqvist. There's a lot of expectations there because he was profiled as a highly like top 4 caliber defender when he was with the Rangers. Obviously, he's with the Stars now, so I was a bit optimistic to see what he was going to do. But I'm not mad with those results, but they could be better. So he is a rookie. So we are going to take that into consideration there, obviously. With Minnesota, you got defenseman Kalen Addison. Addison, obviously, they're another pretty solid rookie that really came out of nowhere. Nobody expected him to be this good. 3 goals, 25 assists for 28 points. A -18, though, and he has 20 penalty minutes in 57 games played this season. He's physical. He can lay the body. He can pass the puck. He can get assists. He's not a bad rookie. He kind of reminds me of Tanner Jeannot, except he's a little bit more physical, or a little bit less physical, sorry, and he gets more points than Jeannot has. So, obviously there, Addison's been a pretty solid rookie this season for the Minnesota Wild, and a pretty pleasant surprise for the Minnesota Wild there. Next up, you have the Nashville Predators, and you have Juuso Parssinen. In 48 games played, Parssinen has 5 goals, 18 assists for 23 points with a +2, and has 15 penalty minutes in 48 games played. Obviously, there with Nashville, they sold at the deadline. They traded Ekholm. They traded Jeannot. They traded a lot of players, and Parssinen has been a pretty solid player and a pretty solid result. And he's gotten some time up in the NHL, hasn't played too bad. So we'll definitely see him get some more time in the coming seasons, but we'll obviously see there if he's a part of Nashville's retool, or I guess you can now call it a rebuild. So next up here, you move on to St. Louis. And St. Louis, granted, they didn't have a lot of options either. I gave them center Nikita Alexandrov. He has 3 goals, 4 assists for 7 points with 8 penalty minutes in 27 games played. With a team like St. Louis that just sold this year, Alexandrov really hasn't looked all too bad. So we'll see if he's a part of St. Louis for the next couple of years or he's just an experiment, but he's my spotlight for the Blues. And then the last player for the Pacific Division before we wrap this up or Central with the Pacific, sorry. Words are hard. You got Winnipeg defenseman Dylan Samberg, who through 51 games played has 2 goals, 6 assists for 8 points with a +7 with 17 penalty minutes. He's been a solid defender for Winnipeg. It's definitely come up into that defense that was looked at to be weak, but has been pretty solid this year with a player like Samberg in the lineup. So to wrap things up here with the Pacific Division, starting off with the Anaheim Ducks and center Mason McTavish. So McTavish, obviously, with Anaheim, there was also not that many options when it came to rookies either. So I just went with the McTavish because I want to give an update on how his season's been going. With 16 goals, 24 assists for 40 points, and a -13 with 40 penalty minutes in 66 games played, McTavish hasn't been exactly all that Anaheim's wanted him to be, but he hasn't been bad either, really, necessarily. So I'm not mad with those results. All you really need to do at this point is kind of just build towards a better future with Anaheim, and McTavish is definitely a pretty solid prospect to start off with. Next up with Calgary, there wasn't a lot of options here either, openly. There was like Jacob Pelletier, there was Connor Zary, I think may have played up, but honestly there hasn't been that many other players that have been eye-opening for the Calgary Flames. You got defenseman Dennis Gilbert. Gilbert, through 18 games played, has 1 goal, 3 assists for 4 points, is a -2 overall, and has 27 penalty minutes this season. So Gilbert, in just 18 games, 27 penalty minutes is crazy, with a lot of fighting there. So obviously Calgary, their prospect pool is depleted, so obviously Dennis Gilbert there, their only rookie, hasn't been terrible, I guess, but he hasn't been good either, so take it with what you will. With Edmonton, you got goaltender Stuart Skinner, who has been a very pleasant surprise, especially since Jack Campbell has not been the goalie that the Oilers fans wanted him to be, so that's definitely an issue, but Skinner has. He's been a very solid goalie, and Oilers fans have been saying this for years, that he's a good goalie, and he's finally been able to prove himself. 19, 14, and 4 with a 2.92 goals against average and a .911 save percentage. So obviously there, Stuart Skinner been a very solid goalie. Now it's all up to playoffs and see what he can do. Campbell's been all right, though. I'm not going to deplete Campbell for, completely, but he hasn't been exactly what the Oilers have expected him to be. But he hasn't been bad either, so credit to him. Next up, left wing Samuel Fagemo for the Los Angeles Kings. Again, with the Kings, surprisingly, there wasn't a lot of options either. I figured there would be, but there wasn't. So Fagemo here, he has 2 goals, 1 assist for 3 points. He's a -4 in 9 games played. He hasn't been too bad for the Los Angeles Kings whatsoever. And, Fagemo, I didn't know him too well before I made this video. So then again, another player that people may not really know. Next up with San Jose, you got left wing William Eklund, who's been pretty hyped up. However, he hasn't played that much. He has 1 goal, 1 assist for 2 points with a -6 and 4 penalty minutes in 6 games played. So he has not been horrible. Still got a lot of time to prove himself for sure. And he likely will be a rookie next season, I would imagine, as well. So we'll see there, obviously. But yeah, Eklund hasn't played that many games. And as well as that, too, for San Jose, there wasn't a lot of options either. And, of course, as I said at the beginning of the video, I'm not including Fabian Zetterlund. Next up was Seattle. There was only 2 rookies, and that was Shane Wright and Matty Beniers. So guess who I went with? Matty Beniers, because Wright is in the OHL as of right now. Beniers this season has 19 goals, 29 assists for 48 points with a +7 and 2 penalty minutes, and is a 6 and in 65 games played overall. Obviously, there Beniers, huge part to why the Kraken have been so good. Got to give massive credit to him there. He's been a huge part in why this team is so good, and there's no denying it there whatsoever. He's been amazing for the Kraken, and there's definitely a bright future ahead there for them. Next up, our final 2 teams here. We got the Vancouver Canucks. There weren't that many interesting players with the Canucks either. So I went with Nils Aman, who through 52 games played has 4 goals, 8 assists for 12 points, and is a -9 with 12 penalty minutes. Obviously there, Aman hasn't been the worst player overall for Vancouver. But Vancouver right now, they don't have a lot of rookies. It's been a struggle. I don't expect them to have that many good rookies for a while. And I will say this too. I know that I didn't include Kuzmenko, and I want to give a shout out to Kuzmenko as well because obviously he is a rookie, but technically he's not. He doesn't meet the requirements, so he technically isn't a rookie. I know that pisses some people off, but he technically isn't a rookie, so that's why I did not include him. And the last player is on the Vegas Golden Knights. Golden Knights fans, you waited all the way to the end. I got Paul Cotter here. Big shout out to Logan Thompson. He could be a Calder winner this year, but I wanted to go with Paul Cotter as well, as Cotter has 12 goals, 5 assists for 17 points in 49 games played, and has been a pleasant surprise for the Vegas Golden Knights. So yeah, make sure to go let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Again, I know I didn't include all of the rookies that are playing really good this year. With Buffalo, you got like Jack Quinn, John Jason Peterka. There's many others that I didn't include, but I wanted to give a shout out to these guys alone because they definitely deserve a spotlight, and that's what this really is, rookie spotlight. So yeah, anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you all very much for watching. For all of your support as of late, I really do appreciate it. Please make sure to go subscribe down below if you are new. We got many more videos coming, but anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.